Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're getting highly educated. Srila Prabhupada told us that if you actually assimilate the 18,000 verses of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, you will have the equivalent of 5 PhDs. High education. Yes. Okay. Welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace. Our Brahmachari Ashram is back from Dallas on its field trip with Vaisheshika Prabhu, my best friend, learning how to distribute books and being in the ecstatic association of a Mahabhagavat devotee. Welcome back. And okay, Sanatana Goswami, prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam, called Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, 412 to 416. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Doditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Prema Varshaksharaya Te Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atini chochata kada hanamuncha kadachin mam premna rit kantayosvura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, the Vishnudutas have come. At the moment, the Yamadutas were trying to take the soul of Ajamila to Yamaraj for judgment. And the Vishnudutas were obviously more powerful than the Yamadutas, so they couldn't. And they are questioning, who are you? We've never had anybody question or be able to stop us from doing our duty to Yamaraj. Of course, they accept Yamaraj as the supreme authority, and apparently they're not aware of who the Vishnudutas are. So now the Vishnudutas has said, how can you be a representative of Yamaraj if you don't know the principles of religion? So can you explain to us what the principles of religion are? So the Yamadutas are trying to do that. Text 54, chapter 1, canto 6. The fruitive activities a living entity performs, whether pious or impious, are the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. This unseen cause is the root for the living entities different bodies. Because of his intense desire, the living entity takes birth in a particular family and receives a body which is either like that of his mother or like that of his father. The gross and subtle bodies are created according to his desire. Purport. The gross body is the product of the subtle body. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.6, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Jajajanti Kalevadam Tam Tam Evaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. The atmosphere of the subtle body at the time of death is created by the activities of the gross body. Thus, the gross body acts during one's lifetime, and the subtle body acts at the time of death. The subtle body, which is called linga, the body of desire, is the background for the development of a particular type of gross body, which is either like that of one's mother or like that of one's father. According to the Rig Veda, if at the time of sex the secretions of the mother are more profuse than those of the father, the child will receive a female body. And if the secretions of the father are more profuse than those of the mother, the child will receive a male body. These are the subtle laws of nature, which act according to the desire of the living entity. If a human being is taught to change his subtle body by developing a consciousness of Krishna, at the time of death, the subtle body will create a gross body in which he will be a devotee of Krishna. Or, if he is still more perfect, he will not take another material body, but will immediately get a spiritual body, and thus return home, back to Godhead. This is the process of the transmigration of the soul. Therefore, instead of trying to unite human society through pacts for sense gratification that can never be achieved, it is clearly desirable to teach people how to become Krishna conscious and return home, back to Godhead. This is true now and indeed at any time. Text 55. Since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life, he is taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, this position can be overcome. Purport. The word Prakriti means material nature, and Purusha may also refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to continue his association with Prakriti, the female energy of Krishna, and be separated from Krishna by the illusion that he is able to enjoy Prakriti, he must continue in his conditional life. If he changes his consciousness, however, and associates with the Supreme Original Person, Purusham Shashvatam, or with his associates, he can get out of the entanglement of material nature. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha. One must simply understand the Supreme Person, Krishna, in terms of his form, name, activities, and pastimes. This will keep one always in the association of Krishna. Tyaktva deham punar janma naitimam eti sorjana. Thus, after giving up his gross material body, one accepts not another gross body, but a spiritual body in which to return home, back to Godhead. Thus one ends the tribulation caused by his association with the material energy. In summary, the living entity is an eternal servant of God, but he comes to the material world and is bound by material conditions because of his desire to lord it over matter. Liberation means giving up this false consciousness and reviving one's original service to the Lord. This return to one's original life is called mukti, as confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Muktir hinvanyata rupam Sarupena Vyavastitihi. Texts 56 and 57. In the beginning, this Brahmana named Ajamila studied all the Vedic literatures. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities, firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions. He was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajamila was very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of the household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy anyone. Purport. The order carriers of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, are explaining the factual position of piety and impiety and how a living entity is entangled in this material world. Describing the history of Ajamila's life, the Yamadutas relate that in the beginning he was a learned scholar of the Vedic literature. He was well behaved, neat and clean, and very kind to everyone. In fact, he had all good qualities. In other words, he was like a perfect Brahmana. A Brahmana is expected to be perfectly pious, to follow all the regulative principles, and to have all good qualities. The symptoms of piety are explained in these verses. Srila Viraraghava Acharya comments that Dritavrata means Dritam Vratam Stri Sangha Rahityatmaka Brahmacharya Rupam. In other words, Ajamila followed the rules and regulations of celibacy as a perfect brahmachari and was very soft-hearted, truthful, clean, and pure. How he fell down in spite of all these qualities and thus came to be threatened with punishment by Yamaraj will be described in the following verses. Texts 58 through 60. Once this Brahmana Ajamila, following the order of his father, went to the forest to collect fruit, flowers, and two kinds of grass called samit and kusha. On the way home, he came upon a Shudra, a very lusty, fourth-class man, who was shamelessly embracing and kissing a prostitute. The Shudra was smiling and singing and enjoying as if this were proper behavior. Both the Shudra and the prostitute were drunk. The prostitute's eyes were rolling in intoxication, and her dress had become loose. Such was the condition in which Ajamila saw them. Purport. While traveling along the public way, Ajamila came upon a fourth-class man and a prostitute who are vividly described here. Drunkenness was sometimes manifest even in bygone ages, although not very frequently. In this age of Kali, however, such sin is to be seen everywhere, for people all over the world have become shameless. Long ago, when he saw the scene of the drunken Shudra and the prostitute, Ajamila, who was a perfect brahmachari, was affected. Nowadays, such a sin is visible in so many places, and we must consider the position of a brahmachari student who sees such behavior. For such a brahmachari to remain steady is very difficult unless he is extremely strong in following the regulated principles. Nevertheless, if one takes the Krishna consciousness very seriously, he can withstand the provocation created by sin. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we prohibit illicit sex, intoxication, meat-eating, and gambling. In Kali Yuga, a drunk, half-naked woman embracing a drunk man is a very common sight, especially in the Western countries, and restraining oneself after seeing such things is very difficult. Nevertheless, if by the grace of Krishna one adheres to the regulated principles and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna will certainly protect him. Indeed, Krishna says that his devotee is never vanquished. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Therefore, All the disciples practicing Krishna consciousness should obediently follow the regulated principles and remain fixed in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Then there need be no fear. Otherwise, one's position is very dangerous, especially in this Kali Yuga. Text 61. The Shudra, his arm decorated with turmeric powder, was embracing the prostitute. When Ajamila saw her, the dormant lusty desires in his heart awakened, and in illusion he fell under their control. Purport. It is said that if one's body is smeared with turmeric, it attracts the lusty desires of the opposite sex. The word kama liptena indicates that the Shudra was decorated with turmeric smeared on his body. Text 62. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires, but because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. Purport. Unless one is very strong in knowledge, patience, and proper bodily, mental, and intellectual behavior, controlling one's lusty desires is extremely difficult. Thus, after seeing a man embracing a young woman and practically doing everything required for sex life, even a fully qualified Brahmana, as described above, could not control his lusty desires and restrain himself from pursuing them. Because of the force of materialistic life, to maintain self-control is extremely difficult unless one is specifically under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service. Text 63. In the same way that the sun and moon are eclipsed by a low planet, the Brahmana lost all his good sense. Taking advantage of this situation, he always thought of the prostitute, and within a short time he took her as a servant in his house and abandoned all the regulated principles of a Brahmana. Purport. By speaking this verse, Shukadeva Goswami wants to impress upon the mind of the reader that Ajamila's exalted position as a Brahmana was vanquished by his association with the prostitute, so much so that he forgot all his Brahminical activities. Nevertheless, at the end of his life, by chanting the 4 syllables of the name Narayana, he was saved from the gravest danger of falling down. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayad. Even a little devotional service can save one from the greatest danger. Devotional service, which begins with chanting of the holy name of the Lord, is so powerful that even if one falls down from the exalted position of a Brahmana through sexual indulgence, he can be saved from all calamities if he somehow or other chants the holy name of the Lord. This is the extraordinary power of the Lord's holy name. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, it is advised that one not forget the chanting of the holy name, even for a moment. Satatam kirtniyanto mam yatantascha drida vritaha. There are so many dangers in this material world that one may fall down from an exalted position at any time. Yet if one keeps himself always pure and steady by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he will be safe without a doubt. Text 64. Thus Ajamil began spending whatever money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute with various material presentations so that she would remain pleased with him. He gave up all his Brahminical activities to satisfy the prostitute. Purport. There are many instances throughout the world in which even a purified person, being attracted by a prostitute, spends all the money he has inherited. Prostitute hunting is so abominable that the desire for sex with a prostitute can ruin one's character, destroy one's exalted position, and plunder all one's money. Therefore, illicit sex is strictly prohibited. One should be satisfied with his married wife for even a slight deviation will create havoc. A Krishna-conscious grahastha should always remember this. He should always be satisfied with one wife and be peaceful simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Otherwise, at any moment, he may fall down from his good position, as exemplified in the case of Ajamila. Text 65. Because his intelligence was pierced by the lustful glance of the prostitute, the victimized Brahmana Ajamila engaged in sinful acts in her association. He even gave up the company of his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectable Brahmana family. Purport. Customarily, everyone is eligible to inherit his father's property, and Ajamila also inherited the money of his father. But what did he do with the money? Instead of engaging the money in the service of Krishna, he engaged it in the service of a prostitute. Therefore he was condemned and was punishable by Yamaraj. How did this happen? He was victimized by the dangerous, lustful glance of a prostitute. Text 66. Although born of a Brahmana family, this rascal, bereft of intelligence because of the prostitute's association, earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters. Text 67. This Brahmana irresponsibly spent his long lifetime transgressing all the rules and regulations of the Holy Scripture, living extravagantly and eating food prepared by a prostitute. Therefore he is full of sins, he is unclean, and is addicted to forbidden activities. Purport. Food prepared by an unclean, sinful man or woman, especially a prostitute, is extremely infectious. Ajamila ate such food, and therefore he was subject to be punished by Yamaraj. Text 68. This man Ajamila did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraj for punishment. There, according to the extent of his sinful activities, he will be punished and thus purified. Purport. The Vishnudutas had forbidden the Yamadutas to take Ajamila to Yamaraj, and therefore the Yamadutas explained that taking such a man to Yamaraj was appropriate. Since Ajamila had not undergone atonement for his sinful acts, he was to be taken to Yamaraj to be purified. When a man commits murder, he becomes sinful, and therefore he also must be killed. Otherwise, after death, he must suffer many sinful reactions. Similarly, punishment by Yamaraj is a process of purification for the most abominable sinful persons. Therefore, the Yamadutas requested the Vishnudutas not to obstruct their taking Ajamila to Yamaraj. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th canto, 1st chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The History of the Life of Ajamila. Okay, moving right along. Chapter 2. Ajamila delivered by the Vishnudutas. In this chapter, the messengers from Vaikuntha explained to the Yamadutas the glories of chanting the holy name of the Lord. The Vishnudutas said, now impious acts are being performed even in an assembly of devotees, for a person who is not punishable is going to be punished in the assembly of Yamaraj. The mass of people are helpless and must depend upon the government for their safety and security. But if the government takes advantage of this to harm the citizens, where will they go? We see perfectly that Ajamila should not be punished, although you are attempting to take him to Yamaraj for punishment. It was due to Ajamila's glorifying the holy name of the Supreme Lord that he was not punishable. The Vishnudutas explained this as follows. Simply by once chanting the holy name of Narayana. This Brahmana has become free from the reactions of sinful life. Indeed, he has been freed not only from the sins of this life, but from the sins of many, many thousands of other lives. He has already undergone true atonement for all his sinful actions. If one atones according to the directions of the Shastras, one does not actually become free from sinful reactions. But if one chants the holy name of the Lord, even a glimpse of such chanting can immediately free one from all sins. Chanting the glories of the Lord's holy name awakens all good fortune. Therefore, there is no doubt that Ajamila, being completely free from all sinful reactions, should not be punished by Yamaraj. As they were saying this, the Vishnudutas released Ajamila from the ropes of the Yamadutas and left for their own abode. The Brahmana, Ajamila, however, offered his respectful obeisances to the Vishnudutas. He could understand how fortunate he was to have chanted the holy name of Narayana at the end of his life. Indeed, he could realize the full significance of this good fortune. Having thoroughly understood the discussion between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, he became a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He lamented very much for how very sinful he had been, and he condemned himself again and again. Finally, because of his association with the Vishnudutas, Ajamila, his original consciousness aroused, gave up everything and went to Hardwar, where he engaged in devotional service without deviation, always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus the Vishnudutas went there, seated him on a golden throne, and took him away to Vaikuntha. In summary, although the sinful Ajamila meant to call his son, the holy name of Lord Narayana, even though chanted in the preliminary stage, Namabhasa, was able to give him liberation. Therefore, one who chants the holy name of the Lord with faith and devotion is certainly exalted. He is protected even in his material, conditional life. Text 1. Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, the servants of Lord Vishnu are always very expert in logic and arguments. After hearing the statements of the Yamadutas, they replied as follows." Text 2. The Vishnudutas said, "Alas, how painful it is that irreligion is being introduced into an assembly where religion should be maintained. Indeed, those in charge of maintaining the religious principles are needlessly punishing a sinless, unpunishable person." Purport. The Vishnudutas accused the Yamadutas of violating the religious principles by attempting to drag Ajamila to Yamaraj for punishment. Yamaraj is the officer appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to judge religious and irreligious principles and to punish people who are irreligious. However, if completely sinless people are punished, the entire assembly of Yamaraj is contaminated. This principle applies not only in the assembly of Yamaraj, but throughout human society also. In human society, properly maintaining religious principles is the duty of the king's court or the government. Unfortunately, in this yuga, Kali Yuga, the religious principles are tampered with, and the government cannot properly judge who is to be punished and who is not. It is said that in the Kali Yuga, if one cannot spend money in court, one cannot get justice. Indeed, in courts of justice, it is often found that magistrates are bribed for favorable judgments. Sometimes religious men who preach the Krishna consciousness movement for the benefit of the entire populace are arrested and harassed by the police and courts. The Vishnudutas, who were Vaishnavas, lamented for these very regrettable facts. Because of spiritual compassion for all the fallen souls, Vaishnavas go out to preach according to the standard method of all religious principles. But unfortunately, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, Vaishnavas who have dedicated their lives to preaching the glories of the Lord are sometimes harassed and punished by courts on false charges of disturbing the peace. Trying to give the peace, and they're accusing them from disturbing the Hare Krishna. Text 3. A king or governmental officer should be so well qualified that he acts as a father, maintainer, and protector of the citizens because of affection and love. He should give the citizens good advice and instructions according to the standard scriptures and should be equal to everyone. Yamaraj does this, for he is the supreme master of judgment, of justice, and so do those who follow in his footsteps. However, if such persons become polluted and exhibit partiality by punishing an innocent, blameless person, where will the citizens go to take shelter for their maintenance and security? Purport. A king, or in modern times the government, should act as the guardian of the citizens by teaching them the proper goal of life. The human form of life is especially meant for realization of oneself and one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because this cannot be realized in animal life. The duty of the government, therefore, is to take charge of training all the citizens in such a way that by a gradual process they will be elevated to the spiritual platform and will realize the self and his relationship with God. This principle was followed by kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir, Maharaj Parikshit, Lord Ramachandra, Maharaj Ambarish, and Prahlad Maharaj. The leaders of the government must be very honest and religious, because otherwise all the affairs of the state will suffer. Unfortunately, in the name of democracy, rogues and thieves are electing other rogues and thieves to the most important posts in the government. Recently, this has been proven in America. This is still going on. This was written in 1970 something. Still going on. Where the president had to be condemned and dragged down from his post by the citizens. This is only one case, but there are many others. Because of the importance of this Krishna consciousness movement, people should be Krishna conscious and should not vote for anyone who is not Krishna conscious. Then there will be actual peace and prosperity in the state. When a Vaishnava sees mismanagement in the government, he feels great compassion in his heart and tries his best to purify the situation by spreading the Hare Krishna movement. Prabhupada ki jai. Text 4. The mass of people follow the example of a leader in society and imitate his behavior. They accept as evidence whatever the leader accepts. Well, that explains it. Purport. Although Ajamila was not punishable, the Yamadutas were insisting on taking him away to Yamaraj for punishment. This was adharma, contrary to religious principles. The Vishnudutas feared that if such irreligious acts were allowed, the management of human society would be spoiled. In modern times, the Krishna consciousness movement is trying to introduce the right principles of management for human society. But unfortunately, the governments of Kali Yuga do not properly support the Hare Krishna movement because they do not appreciate its valuable service. The Hare Krishna movement is the right movement for ameliorating the fallen condition of human society and therefore governments and public leaders in every part of the world should support this movement to completely rectify humanity's sinful condition. Texts 5 and 6. People in general are not very advanced in knowledge by which to discriminate between religion and irreligion. The innocent, unenlightened citizen is like an ignorant animal sleeping in peace with its head on the lap of its master, faithfully believing in the master's protection. If a leader is actually kind-hearted and deserves to be the object of a living entity's faith, how can he punish or kill a foolish person who is fully surrendered in good faith and friendship? Purport. The Sanskrit word Vishwastagata refers to one who breaks faith or causes a breach of trust. The mass of people should always feel security because of the government's protection. Therefore, how regrettable it is for the government itself to cause a breach of trust and put the citizens in difficulty for political reasons. We actually saw during the partition days in India that although Hindus and Muslims were living together peacefully, manipulation by politicians suddenly aroused feelings of hatred between them. And thus the Hindus and Muslims killed one another over politics. This is a sign of Kali Yuga. In this age, animals are kept nicely sheltered, completely confident their masters will protect them. But unfortunately, as soon as the animals are fat, they are immediately sent for slaughter. Such cruelty is condemned by Vaishnavas like the Vishnudutas. Indeed, the hellish conditions already described await the sinful men responsible for such suffering. One who betrays the confidence of a living entity, who takes shelter of him in good faith, whether that living entity be a human being or an animal, is extremely sinful. Because such betrayals now go unpunished by the government, all of human society is terribly contaminated. The people of this age are therefore described as Manda, Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya, Upadutaha. As a consequence of such sinfulness, men are condemned, Manda. Their intelligence is unclear, Sumanda Mataya. They are unfortunate, Manda Bhagya, and therefore they are always disturbed by many problems, Upadrutaha. This is their situation in this life, and after death, they are punished in hellish conditions. Text 7. Ajamila had already atoned for his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but for those performed in millions of lives. For in a helpless condition, he chanted the holy name of Narayana. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation. Purport. The Yamadutas had considered only the external situation of Ajamila. Since he was extremely sinful throughout his life, they thought he should be taken to Yamaraj, and did not know that he had become free from the reactions of all his sins. The Vishnudutas therefore instructed that because he had chanted the 4 syllables of the name Narayana at the time of his death, he was freed from all sinful reactions. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following verses from the Smriti Shastra. Namno hi yavati shakti papa nirharane harehe tabat kartum nashuknoti patakam pataki naraha. Simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions of more sins than he is able to commit. Brihad Vishnu Purana. Aveshinapit yan namni kirtite sarvapatakahi puman vimuchite sadyag singha trastayar mrigayariva. If one chants the holy name of the Lord, even in a helpless condition, or without desiring to do so, all the reactions of a sinful life depart, just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. Garuda Purana. Sakrit ucharitam yena harir it yakshara dvayam baddha parikarastena mokshaya gramanam prati. By once chanting the holy name of the Lord, which consists of the two syllables Hari, one guarantees his path to liberation. Skanda Purana. These are some of the reasons why the Vishnudutas objected to the Yamadutas taking Ajamila to the court of Yamaraj. Text 8. The Vishnudutas continued, even previously, while eating, and at other times, this Ajamila would call his son, saying, "My dear Narayana, please come here." Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the four syllables, Narayana. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana in this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives. Purport. Previously, when engaged in sinful activities to maintain his family, Ajamila chanted the name of Narayana without offenses. To chant the holy name of the Lord just to counteract one's sinful activities, or to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name, is offensive. Namno balad yasya hipapa buddhihi. But although Ajamila engaged in sinful activities, he never chanted the holy name of Narayana to counteract them. He simply chanted the name Narayana to call his son. Therefore his chanting was effective. Because of chanting the holy name of Narayana in this way, he had already vanquished the accumulated sinful reactions of many, many lives. In the beginning, he was pure. But although he later committed many sinful acts, he was offenseless because he did not chant the holy name of Narayana to counteract them. One who always chants the holy name of the Lord without offenses is always pure. As confirmed in this verse, Ajamila was already sinless, and because he chanted the name of Narayana, he remained sinless. It did not matter that he was calling his son. The name itself was effective. Text 9 and 10. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord Vishnu, the chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process for atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, or for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man is chanted by holy name, my duty is to give him protection. Text 11. By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service. Unlike the chanting of the Lord's names, which reminds one of the Lord's fame, qualities, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the chanting of the holy name of the Lord has special significance that distinguishes it from the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of atonement for severe, more severe, or most severe sinful actions. There are 20 types of religious scriptures called Dharma Shastras, beginning with the Manu Samhita and Parashara Samhita. But herein it is stressed that although one may become free from the reactions of the most sinful activities by following the religious principles of these scriptures, this cannot promote a sinful man to the stage of loving service to the Lord. On the other hand, chanting of the holy name of the Lord, even once, not only frees one immediately from the reactions of the greatest sins, but also raises one to the platform of rendering loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described as Uttama Shloka because he is famous for his glorious activities. Thus one serves the Lord by remembering his form, his attributes, and pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is all possible simply by chanting the Lord's holy name because of the Lord's omnipotence. What cannot be achieved through the performance of Vedic rituals can be easily achieved through the chanting of the Lord's holy name. To chant the holy name and dance in ecstasy is so easy and sublime that one can achieve all the benefits of spiritual life simply by following this process. Shall I read that again? Oh, all right. To chant the holy name and dance in ecstasy is so easy and sublime that one can achieve all the benefits of spiritual life simply by following this process. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. The Sankirtan movement we have started offers the best process for becoming purified of all sinful reactions and coming immediately to the platform of spiritual life. Text 12. The ritualistic ceremonies or atonement recommended in the religious scriptures are insufficient to cleanse the heart absolutely. Because after atonement, one's mind again runs toward material activities. Consequently, for one who wants liberation from the fruitive reactions of material activities, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra or glorification of the name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord is recommended as the most perfect process of atonement, because such chanting eradicates the dirt from one's heart completely. Purport. The statements in this verse have been confirmed previously in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.17. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantaksto Yabadrani Vidunoti Surit Sitam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. It is the special mercy of the Supreme Lord that as soon as he knows that one is glorifying his name, fame, and attributes, he personally helps cleanse the dirt from one's heart. Therefore, simply by such glorification, one not only becomes purified, but also achieves the results of pious activities. Punya, Shravana, Kirtana. Punya, Shravana, Kirtana refers to the process of devotional service. Even if one does not understand the meaning of the Lord's name, pastimes, or attributes, one is purified simply by hearing or chanting of them. Such purification is called Sattva Bhavana. One's main purpose in human life should be to purify his existence and achieve liberation. As long as one has a material body, one is understood to be impure. In such an impure material condition, one cannot enjoy a truly blissful life, although everyone seeks it. Therefore, Srimad-Bhagavatam 5.5.1 says, Tapo divyam putrika yena sattvam shudyet. One must perform tapasya, austerity, to purify his existence in order to come to the spiritual platform. The tapasya of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, and attributes of the Lord is a very easy purifying process by which everyone can be happy. Therefore, everyone who desires the ultimate cleansing of his heart must adopt this process. Other processes, such as karma, jnana, and yoga, cannot cleanse the heart absolutely. We'll stop there. Hare Krishna. 7:30. Just a second. So nice. There's this one, before we start having reflections, I'm going to give you one reflection directly from Prabhupada. This is Prabhupada's reflection. I hope I can find it. After one's mind becomes cleansed by chanting Hare Krishna, one gradually comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness and then reads books like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the Nectar of Devotion. In this way, one becomes more and more purified of material contamination. It's right there in black and white. And one I just found from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I just read it. If one does not understand in the beginning, but continues to hear again and again, the wonderful effects of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes will bring love for Krishna. Gradually, one will come to understand the loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis and other associates of Vrindavan. Everyone is advised to continue to hear over and over again in order to greatly benefit. I just read that this morning and I copied it onto this just in case I needed it. C.C. Madhya 287. Okay. So sweet, huh? So sweet. The holy name of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord, the instructions of the Lord, the association of the devotees. So nice. Okay. Ken, you got the mic.
I have a question. It says one must perform tapasya or austerity by chanting the holy names of Krishna. But then it went on to say that this process is easy. So first it says it's on austerity, but then it says it's easy. So can you explain?
Austerity doesn't mean it has to be painful. When we think of austerity, we think we have to do something that's painful because we're in ignorance. So therefore we do austerity in ignorance, and therefore we torture the body, and we think that that's austerity. Austerity means to withdraw the mind and senses from sense gratification. And so when you chant Hare Krishna, it's the perfect austerity. And it's easy to perform, but it's not easy to keep up. The mind always wants to take one elsewhere. The senses always wants to take one elsewhere. But we should get so much enthusiasm from hearing this from the Bhagavatam. This is serious spiritual scripture. This is the summum bonum of all the Vedas being given to us, on a silver plate. Here, take this. Just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, even imperfectly, even if, once, if it's not with offense, and this is a very important point, because Ajamila, he was sinful. You remember? Yes. He was sinful. Sin after sin after sin after sin. But because he wasn't, and he named his son Narayana, so he was saying Narayana the whole time. Narayana do this, Narayana come here, Narayana do this, Narayana do that. But he wasn't thinking, I'm going to chant the name of God in order to purify myself from these sinful activities. He wasn't thinking like that. So that's called namabhas. It's not pure, but it's not sinful. It's not aparad. So the result of that is liberation. But you notice he didn't go right back to Godhead. He had to stay there, go to Haridwar, do his devotional service, to become purified, and then he went back to Godhead. So the fact is that once you chant Hare Krishna without offense, even once, then your liberation is guaranteed. It's just a matter of time. And if you, one time, give yourself to Krishna sincerely, from the heart, not just, business. Oh, Lord, I get me out of this trouble, get me out of this mess, and I'll, whatever. But really, sincerely, from the core of the heart, surrender. From that time on, Krishna starts to take care directly. And he'll end up fulfilling all your material desires, but in a way that you won't keep asking for them again and again. We've already read this recently. Don't remember where it was exactly. Yeah, so therefore, chanting Hare Krishna is an austerity, because while you're doing it, you have to give up doing something else that may be sinful. And in the absolute sense, anything that is done not for Krishna's pleasure is actually sinful. Therefore, there's one perp that said, sinful, more sinful, most sinful. The different degrees of sin that are nullified by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, if we don't take up chanting Hare Krishna, then we are nonsense. We're especially after we found out about it. And all these people, when we go out in Harinam, and they dance, come and dance with us, and sometimes chant, or sometimes just call out, "Hey, Hare Krishna," he's just doing it, just to, to make fun of us or whatever. They're all getting liberated. Prabhupada used to count the names of Krishna in a negative article. One time in Chicago, he got these two articles. They came out on the same day. And one of them was pretty favorable. And the other one was completely unfavorable. But it had so many names of Krishna in it. So Prabhupada looked at both of them, and he counted the names of Krishna. He said, oh, this one's very good, because the person's chanting Hare Krishna more. even though he was making critical comments about us. So yeah, it's not a contradiction that the chanting of Hare Krishna is an austerity, and it's easy to do. Therefore, we should chant Hare Krishna because it's easy, and it's also austere. It's a nice way to do austerity, eh? Hare Krishna.
Someone's typing a question on cyberspace.
Someone's typing a question in cyberspace. Okay, we're ready. Teddy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Before the question, there's a lot coming in now. First, Vilas Manjari Dasi has a reflection, or one question. Hare Krishna Maharaj, what a wonderful contrast to the descriptions of hell to hear the glories of the holy name.
You can say that again. It's very scientifically arranged, the subject matters of the Bhagavatam.
I have one last question about sin and hell. It seems from Ajamila's life that the conditioned soul, even if it tries to be good, will be led by the force of material nature to sin and go to hell. So how do we have free will to choose to love Krishna or take shelter of Maya when shelter of Maya means these extreme sufferings are inevitable?
Well, I explained this the other day, that you get the ability to choose by hearing the truth. And you have to hear the truth from a source that is outside of the actions and reactions of the material nature. When you hear the truth, tattvavit, when you learn the truth, know the truth, tattvavit tu mahabaho, guna karma vibhaga yo, guna guneshu vartanta, iti matma nasajjate. That, you can look it up, it's 328. And that verse says that when one is in knowledge, then he knows the difference between fruitive activity and devotional service, and he chooses devotional service. So you can't choose if you don't know the difference. So therefore you don't get the ability to choose until after you've heard. You know that there's that famous story in the Bhagavatam where Brahma chases after his daughter? That happened before he heard the Bhagavatam. And that's why Vyasadeva was instructed by Narada Muni to compile the Bhagavatam, or to bring the Bhagavatam into the material world, because the Bhagavatam is completely pure, and the fallen persons of the Kali Yuga will not take advantage of the other subject matters that are in the other Vedic literatures to avoid devotional service. So in other words, devotional service, hearing the Bhagavatam, and chanting Hare Krishna, these are not ordinary pious activities. They're not the same as atonement or prayaschitta. That's one of the main points of this section, where Vishnu Dutas explain what the Hare Krishna mantra is. It's not pious activity. It's direct association with Krishna. So it's austerity in the sense that it's, it's not in the modes of nature. Chanting Hare Krishna and doing transcendental austerity is above the modes of nature. I'm losing track. I'm wandering a little bit. Trying to remember her exact question. Could you read the question again?
It seems from Ajamila's life that the conditioned soul, even if it tries to be good, will be led by the force of material nature to sin and go to hell. So how do we have free will to choose to love Krishna or take shelter of Maya, when taking shelter of Maya means these extreme sufferings are inevitable?
I just answered it.
Yeah.
But the fact is that as long as we're in a material body and material nature is there, we can fall down. Anyone, even a Mahabhagavat, if he hears the Mayavad philosophy, can fall down. That's in the Shastra, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, therefore you have to continually chant.
She said to clarify, I guess my question is also about our free will to love Krishna. How can it be free if there is no other option but suffering?
It's not true there is no other option but suffering. The free will of the soul is inherent in the soul. The free will of the soul is never taken away. One always has the choice. But when we're in the material nature and controlled by the material nature, then we lose that ability. But then when we hear, and that's the key, this is the key, the moment we hear from a representative of Krishna, the holy name or the instructions from Shastra, then we get the ability to choose. The ability to choose doesn't come from the material nature. It comes from transcendental world. It comes from the spiritual world, and it awakens the free will or the choice that is there, inherent in the soul. It's like an alarm clock, a transcendental alarm clock. It awakens the soul to its original nature. Sometimes people who have this doubt, they ask the question, well, if Krishna knows everything, does he know, when the soul's going to fall and what the soul's going to do in the future? And Prabhupada said yes. And they said, well, then how can Krishna be kind if he knows the soul is going to fall and allows him to fall? And Prabhupada said, that's not Krishna's business, that's your business. Krishna wants you to love him. He doesn't want slave. He doesn't want slaves. It's not that you go to the spiritual world and you become a slave and you lose your ability to choose, you lose your freedom. Therefore, the independent nature of the soul to choose is always there, even in the spiritual world. Otherwise, love couldn't exist. Love could not exist unless the free choice is there. Love of God could not exist unless the free choice is there. And Krishna, he wants us to come back to him, and the proof is that he comes here once in every day of Brahma. Of course, that's a long time for us, but for Brahma it's only one day, and for him it's only a blink of an eye. He's always coming, again and again he's coming to help us and to show his pastimes to us so that we have transcendental things to talk about and to think about and his names to chant. It's Krishna. That's coming from Krishna. It's not coming from us. It's not coming from the modes of nature. So the point is that we should take responsibility, and that's basically even in material existence or spiritual existence. It's better to take responsibility. Persons who take responsibility, they're promoted, even in material life. What to speak of spiritual life?
That's true though. That's the only reason why I got here, to be honest, because I feel like, nah, for real, because I just been reflecting. I just been like, yo, because that day before I got here, the day seemed like, I'm like, yo, I did my prayers. I'm like, man, what's going on? I'm waiting for things to, the next thing you know, the next day, and I'm like, serving somebody, helping somebody that with a project that they need done, and it's like, I'm working on not trying to be, so attached to the material and looking to get some type of monies or whatever it is, and bam, PK's got on this, then I'm outside. I see Marcus and I believe Douglas outside too, and I'm like, I'm feeling so like, I'm feeling that ecstasy, that word you mentioned earlier, just like, whoa, okay, then that.
Therefore, just seeing the devotees,
Mm-hmm.
just seeing the devotees who are engaged in pure devotional service lifts one out and gives one the ability to choose. One time I asked Prabhupada directly a question on a morning walk. I said, Srila Prabhupada, is the pure devotee more merciful than Krishna? And he stopped, he turned around, he looked right at me this far, close, he smiled really big and he said, oh yes. and I kind of like melted into the ground, And then he said how Arjuna, wanted to save them, but Krishna wanted to kill them, and, Durvasa Muni went to Vishnu, for shelter. Vishnu said, what can I do? You offended my, my pure devotee, and you got to go to him and get relieved.
We have more questions.
Okay, quick.
We have 2 more questions.
2 more questions. All right.
This one is from Rasa Rasika.
Rasa Risika Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. If there are only very few souls who attain perfection in this human form of life, realistically, how much of a chance do we have as Vaishnavas who try to chant each day? If there are only a very few souls who attain perfection, is this human form... This question. Okay, I'm just going to read it how it's written. If there are only a very few souls who attain perfection, is this human form of life, realistically, how much of a chance do we have as Vaishnavas who try to chant each day without offense and follow the process of Krishna consciousness? Considering all the sins we can commit, even just by breathing or walking, thereby killing living entities at every moment.
We just read the answer to your question. We just read in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the 6th canto, the instructions of the Vishnu Dutas, the answer to your question. By the grace of the holy name of the Lord, and by the grace of the Vaishnavas. And again, we're thinking, yes, but it's so rare that we can attain perfection. But Lord Chaitanya came and he's giving it to everyone, no matter whether you're fit or not. It's by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. That's how.
He said, sorry, I just tuned in.
Okay, go. I'm not going to read the chapter again. But, just read the 6th canto. What is it, 2nd chapter?
Yes.
You can play it back.
Yeah, you can play it back.
Okay, next question. This question is from Krishna Bhavana. Hare Krishna Maharaj, how can we help someone who is chanting 16 rounds and engaged in material activities?
chant Hare Krishna yourself without offense, stop engaging in material activities, and become a beacon of light and love and spiritual consciousness, and then go associate with him. In other words, the only way what we can do to help others is to ourselves become pure devotees, and then everywhere we meet will be helped. Okay? Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Vishnu Dutas and their instructions about the holy name. All glories to the 6th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow night, 6:30, same place, same station. Radha Lane. Haribol.